Hello there, people. Hello to the Hellenic Wolf podcast. I'm Jason, your host, and this is a podcast where I bring people to talk a little bit about holistic healthcare solutions that are home-based mostly. So I'm mostly interested into bringing people and solutions and ideas that bring your health back to your own hands, back to your own power. So I'm really into freedom and empowering people. And today we have another guest that is probably going to give us a few tips and a few solutions and probably a mindset shift in a few areas that will help us bring healthcare back into our own hands and be more empowered, being more free and independent, which is very important from the system. So, Nadine, welcome to the Hellenic Goof podcast.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
It's a great pleasure. And I don't have many ladies, here. We have a few. And we had, I don't know if you, that's another Canadian. Maybe you are familiar with Amanda Vollmer. Do you know her by any chance?
Oh, yes, actually. She lives not too far from us in this area. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. It's a great lady too. So, all right. So you're probably the third lady here. So that's great. I want to, have and some ladies too. Some ladies because I think both men and women healthcare providers can, come from different sides of the equation because females, in my mind, females and males are different. And sometimes the way we think about things are a little bit different. So I'm glad that you're here and tell to the people and to me. First of all, let's start from the beginning. Who are you? Give us a short bio before we dive into your story. Who are you? And in 2 minutes, if we have 2 minutes to talk, an elevator pitch.
For sure. Well, I'm Nadine, and I've written a couple books. One is Renegade Beauty, which is about revealing and reviving your natural radiance through the elements, something I think of as cosmoetics, where we're bringing in sun and air and earth to revive our being as sort of that's the first level of engagement that we need to revive our bodies. It's not just coming from, another jar of something or something like that. And I also have a book called Holistic Dental Care, which is about holistic dental care. And I've been a botanical formulator for about 30 years. And so it's really been my passion for a long time, since my teens. When I was a teen, luckily I had a moment where I had a self-directed learning project, which was rare, with a science fair project, which I decided to recreate and explore perfumery. And so understanding, which, back in that time, all perfumes were just chemicals, and just really seeing that the roots of perfume were really, really about perfume, being a pure expression of the plants to, anoint the body and even to kind of communicate with spirit, because smell is that beautiful zone that just sort of brings together tangible and intangible, the form and formlessness. So it was also used as a way of communication. And I'm just fascinated by the distillation of plants and their relation to our bodies, and how we can really, use various plants and different things to care for our bodies, for our teeth in new ways. And I feel like really underneath it all, like really at my book and through, whether you're going through the science or the poetry of it, really underneath it all is for us to just feel more at ease in our bodies through understanding our bodies a bit more. And as you say, to undo the systems of care in a way that have sort of, been a bit of a veil for us to get through and kind of to truly decipher, how do we take care of the mouth? How do we take care of the skin? How do we engage with the elements like sunshine in a way that serves the body, rather than just sort of having this veil of, misinformation in a way on how we're supposed to care for our bodies.
All right. Great start. All right. So it seems to me that you're thinking of the spirits also. So you combine, you see the world in a sense that we are not just tangible, we are not just physical beings, we're all spiritual beings, right?
Yeah, it's a whole everything. It's like, yeah, we divide it in our minds to understand it, but obviously, we've got our physical beings, our mind, which is really, it's here and it's not here. It's right. It's like it's a brain, but it's also connected to our thinking and thoughts and emotions, which of course, I mean, we're connected to something, right?
Yes, true story.
Yes.
We're connected to something. And so, first of all, before we dive into the subject that you referred, like dental care, like botanology, maybe beauty, that I know that you are famous for, why are you Nadine Artemis? Why do you do business talk with regarding healthcare? Why aren't you a lawyer? Why aren't you a business consultant? Why are you know what I mean? Why
Yeah.
aren't you those classic professions? Why did you choose this profession?
Well, I didn't even know it was a profession on one level. So when I came into it, it was really, as a teen, I was exploring and mixing and concocting, but just really from the regular realm of ingredient. Like I'd take my synthetic perfumes and mix them, or so I had this real, and even as a kid, I'd be mushing, geranium petals with mud and like making masks and jumping in the lake. So I literally had some kind of physical desire to like mix, concoct, and create. And as I was going through university and having so much fun, like, studying and writing, and I love that intellectual pursuit. But interestingly, too, I was sort of also studying the history of our bodies, specifically in that time, the female body, and like even looking at ways of birth and the ways that birth had sort of gotten strange, from in the past 50 years, or just the things we didn't need. So through understanding the journey of our bodies, and at the same time, as I'm mixing and concocting things for the bodies, it just seemed like such a great union. But of course, as I was growing up, and as you think of what you may or may not become, what I do wasn't like a profession that had shape to it. I think now, even in these days, there's a little bit more where you could be like, yeah, I'm going to grow up and make a cosmetic line. But before, it was really just what you saw as big business. It wasn't like a whole bunch of cottage industry, so to speak. So there was that. I was also, as a kid, I was very much also like figuring out. I was a sensitive kid. Like, I mean, sensitive to things and environments. But I also learned that I kind of have to take care of my sensitivity. Like nobody's kind of coming to deliver that world for me, so I must make it. And I also thought, I'm going to be hanging out in my body for a long time. So it's good to get to know it. It's good to befriend it. And I feel like, a simple but profound part of my work is to help people feel at ease in their bodies.
That's very interesting that you said, because lately I have a few thoughts about how people perceive their body and especially how they perceive this ease.
Mm-hmm.
And what I see is that many people, especially in very heavy illnesses, that are cardiovascular diseases, Alzheimer's, or of course cancer and all that stuff, people they use some terminology that is very, I find it very disturbing and very wrong. So they use the terminology fighting cancer, fight,
Yeah.
fight, fight,
Yeah.
you know, come and fight, kill things, kill, kill, kill. And it seems to me that they try to fight their bodies. And I don't know if they understand that, but you said a very interesting thing about being at ease. I don't know, I don't remember exactly how you said that a couple of minutes ago, but what is your opinion about befriending the body, understanding the body, and being at ease? So, can you elaborate a little bit about these subjects?
Yeah, I mean, one level, it's a vast subject, but it's also simple. And I feel like, in Western philosophy, sort of from like that Descartesian notion, Descartes, about like I feel like for a few hundred years, we've had this separation of the mind and body for some reason, because it's just so obvious that it's all connected, like just even if we look at the teeth, it's just been like literally like just like they're just separate. And it's like, there's just no way they're not connected to all the systems in the body, the hormonal, the digestive, and all the systems. So yeah, so I feel like we've just sort of been set up as a civilization, as a modern civilization, to, be separate from the body or try and get over our physicality. But we can't. We're in our we're in our body. So let's like kind of exhale, relax, and get into it and know our bodies. Just like we want to have self-knowledge of our mind, we want to know how our bodies work. And when it comes down to even looking at the mouth, I tell people, like, we even have dental mirrors that you can, because you want to know what's going on back there, what's going on in those back molars. We can't get out of this through not knowing. So it's a good thing to dive into, and I feel like it is rewarding. It's rewarding to, I just personally feel like life is easier when we have our health. And so it's like, let's just look at that, right? What are all the angles? And I feel like as a body in modern times, there's a lot where we can kind of get off course.
That's very interesting again. And Nadine, what's your opinion about people who are suffering for a long time now and they cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel? So, for example, let's say that a man listening to us in his 30s or 40s, and he's overweight his entire life, and he's facing, blood pressure problems. He's facing issues with his teeth. He's facing issues with his gut since early, since adolescence. So he's never really felt the light that you experience now, you, Nadine, and probably other people that are healthy enough to experience life in another level, in a completely different existence level. So how can you get a man or a woman like that and get them to see the light? How can you do the transition, in your opinion? How can somebody do that?
Well, at one level, anything that's going to be true for us, we have to feel and discover for ourselves for it to actually like have resonance. And I know that it can feel a lot these days like we're just sort of a walking ball of a bunch of symptoms, and it can feel very overwhelming. But often, there's just one thread, because on one level, disease starts with inflammation and mitochondrial dysfunction. So there can be all these different things all over the body, but just getting to that root of it can help. But that can often, that can be a frustrating pathway for sure. You're seeing this person, that person, this advice, can be conflictual, or you could be feeling like kind of a whack-a-mole game where you take care of one system, but a symptom, but another one pops up. So there's that. And sometimes the body, because it's physical, like it's a thing, it can be a little bit slower to catch up. So the first place perhaps for anybody to start is, looking at just like, how's the mindset? And it can be hard to jump from feeling like not good to feeling good. So you just have to find that one better thought than where you are right now, where you can just kind of like, it's like, I think of it sort of, if your brain and you're like rock climbing, you got to find that next hold where you can get a grip, but you're not going to like jump right to the top. And so it's good to slow down thinking, see what is that river of thoughts that's, percolating all day, that babbling brook, start there, because that could be one of the greatest things inhibiting you. If you actually know what your mind is saying to you all day long, it may not be that positive of a story. And so you want to go, you want to start there, and, just start with trusting the body as much as you can. I mean, if you think about every night before we go to sleep, we don't like have a whole to-do list of making sure the liver works and the blood's flowing. The bodies are a brilliant design. So much, even if you feel like so much is wrong with your body, so much is right. So much is happening that is, is in alignment, is in flow. It's kind of like we could look at the world and see a lot of things to be bummed out about, that's for sure. But if we think deeper, when we look at like what, the sun is still rising every day. So there's a deeper rhythm to life that we can trust. And I think, you've got to build up that trust with your body and know the contents of your mind so that it's not throwing you off course.
Yes. Great message. Great message. Because seeing the glass, it's not even half full or half empty. I think what you said is very, very interesting and very important again, because there are indeed, in my opinion, I agree completely, and I love how you phrased it, and I'll keep it in mind for the next few weeks for my own
Yeah,
selfish
you
interest.
got a glass, you've got liquid inside of it. Who cares if it's half full or half empty, right?
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
there.
Exactly. It's empowering. Honestly, it's empowering because many people go into the depression mode, and to be honest, over the past week, I got into my spring blues. I got into because I had some gut issues, and
Yeah.
I dived into some things that I shouldn't probably eat right now.
Yeah.
And I did some things with my health care that wasn't very caring to my body. I didn't respect my body very much over the past 10 days. And I really, got my results back. My body said, hey, stop, please, being a little bit less rude to us, to me, or to us. And there I am now. Yesterday, for example, I was like depressed, really. But if you look, and a very interesting experiment for me to do over the next days, look at myself as being like 90% healthy and strong, and 10%, okay, something is, something has to be healed, and that's a much better thought, honestly. And you said about positive thinking, about thinking, and about bad thoughts. You implied, bad thoughts and things like that. So this is, I mean, I've seen other teachers also say the same thing. The mind, I think, is very, very, very crucial to our health. And from personal experience, just eating with your friends, having great time can make a world of difference while you eat the same food that you eat in your home, and yet it doesn't hurt your gut. I've seen it in myself. I don't know. What's your opinion about negative thinking now that you implied something? How important it is to have a habit of not talking bad to ourselves, not bad mouthing ourselves.
Yeah, we're our worst judgers. I think it's really important, and I think also it's shown that like negative thinking also creates like acidic bodies, like it creates acid inside the body as a physical example. And we know that the tears of joy and the tears of sorrow are different chemical makeup. Sometimes though, like, just saying, oh, think positive, it can feel like a Mount Everest to get there. Or, saying something like affirmations, which can just pave over feelings that are, less than the best. And so you don't want to just pave over your feelings either. And that's why I say, like, just find that next better thought. You don't have to like make a miracle. And also it's about sort of, or just don't have a thought on that subject, because often we will decide or choose things for ourselves, whether it's, from a business thing or a food thing or a health thing. And the moment we make that decision, instead of just like done, there, focus, then we bring up other opposing thoughts that may doubt that, or you can't do that, or you never fasted before, or it lasted an hour, or whatever thoughts you want to have. And so if you're deciding something too, then just get out of the way and don't bring in the opposite thoughts, because that's literally like one step forward, one step back. And then your whole thing is just like going between those 2 points instead of actually moving forward. So again, it doesn't have to be a big leap of faith. Find that next better thought and make sure you're not just like adding to the doubt or just don't, if you decide something, then don't feed yourself the opposite of it. And often our resistance is the opposite of what we desire. So just get clear, see where that babbling brook is going, and step out of the way. That's one reason why meditation is good. It's not just because you're like, whatever, like that classic thing of meditating. The reason why meditating works is because you're literally having 10, 15 minutes a day of non-resistant thought. So that is the key, because when we're not having resistant thought, that's where the good stuff starts coming in. If we resist that and we're holding the opposite of what we believe, then we are in the way, nobody else. So I do feel like that mental knowledge and that mental agility is pretty key, especially in these times. We need to develop some other muscles, But that's the real thing of meditation. It's just taking you out of your own resistance. And then that's where the fun begins.
Okay, then. Great stuff again. Yeah, meditation. Very interesting process, honestly. I'm in and out of it, but I think, it's what you say. It's very interesting to keep an eye on the thoughts and not overextend ourselves and not conflict our interests. Sometimes what you said about
and sometimes if it's a thing, like a part of your body or something that's just feeling so challenging, then kind of make some decisions in that area, and then don't think about it for a bit. Just don't, because then you're not putting resistance and just the opposite of what you want in that area. So that's a good thing too. Kind of set it up and then ignore it.
Right. All right. People, you listen to Nadine. Ignore the things she says. And having said all that, of course, now it's time for us both to, explore one subject that you are an author about that subject, which is, of course, teeth. And teeth is a personal struggle for me over the past year. Nadine, I've really messed up my teeth over the past year. I don't know how I did it. I had a few things. I had a few issues with my teeth. I had always braces when I was younger, when I was a child, since 8 years old until like my late adolescence. And then my teeth got crowded again. I had to remove a couple of wisdom teeth, which I find weird.
It is.
It is weird. Thank you.
67% of all wisdom teeth removal is unnecessary by some dental journal, like very official stat there.
Yeah. And of course, we can go into that if you want. But I think that even the jawline that is not formed properly is another weird thing in our times. Sometimes, why are teeth even crowded? I don't get it, to be honest. And I was always asking that question since I was young, but nobody gave me. Always, you have, Nadine, I don't know if you have noticed that, but the doctors usually say, or the parents, this is genetics. So, hey, this is genetics. This is genetical. And I had always, since I was a young adolescent, because I have always a fascination with the body and the biology, a very great student at that since I was like 14. And I always asked myself, what does that even mean? What is genetic? Because my brother, for example, didn't have braces. That's genetic too, but how come we are from the same family and we have completely different outcomes? So aren't we kind of the same genes? And that, started me in this process and this journey of healthcare. So Nadine, give us, first of all, your opinion about jawlines, about teeth crowding, and then we can dive into more self-healthcare with the teeth.
For sure. Well, I think your 14-year-old self would have liked to known about epigenetics. That would have been fun. Well, there is a reason for that. And so what is genetic is that we are now 3 or 4 generations into not eating, eating more grain and less fat and that kind of stuff. And so we're missing key vitamins and not being in the sun. So the bone building vitamins like vitamin D3 and K2 along with minerals, are just, not in the diets and the bodies anymore. And that is literally like, that your grandmother's diet is going to affect your jaw, and your mother's diet while she's pregnant and pre-pregnant, all that is obviously going to affect the jaw as well. And so our jaws are, our jaw, the archway in the mouth, it is a bit smaller than our ancestors because we don't have the same sort of bone density nutrients in our diet. So that's one thing. And then there's another aspect to the overcrowding and wisdom teeth removal is it's not necessarily overcrowded, but it's just what, there's a lot of dentistry that's just really like a chainsaw to a tree. You know what I mean? There's so much that has improved since like the 18th century, obviously, with dentistry. But then really, I think, another 100 years from now, we'll be like, what? We were using that. It will feel like we were putting chainsaws in our mouth. And so, yeah, the removing and the uncrowding, you want to keep all your teeth as much as possible. Generally, there's things now where you could have a spacer in the archway that would then create space. One of my favorite books is by Dr. Weston Price, which he was the president of the American Dental Association in the 1930s. And he wanted to know, what was causing things, and root canals and jaw loss and all that too. And so he and his wife in the 1930s traveled around the world, sort of Indiana Jones styles, going to remote locations and seeing like, okay, like the indigenous people of the West Pacific Northwest, how were they? Or the Inuit peoples in, what were they eating? And it was, lettuce, seal fat, and that kind of thing. Or like, what were people on Pacific Islands eating? Or, studying in the Hebrides, the Scottish, I believe they're islands off of Scotland. And they're looking at like twin brothers. One was living in the port and one was living inland traditionally. And the port having the stores with the sugar and all that, so very different teeth for two brothers. Or looking at like St. Moritz and Ski Town, or like, towns high up in the Alps, and they were eating special butter that was made in June and July from the fresh grass growing on the mountainside. And then they produced this butter, which we now know is really high in vitamin K2, which we needed for bones and that kind of thing. So really what he learned was, obviously, to summarize, is like the fats are really important, those super nutrient vitamins, and that the white bread, white sugar, et cetera, wasn't good. Then we, look at that information with other dentists like Dr. Melvin Page, who saw that when blood phosphorus serums dropped, cavities start to begin. And then we look at like the work of Dr. Ralph Steinem, who was a practicing dentist, had very severe allergies. This is in the 1950s. And so he gave was suggested to not eat, all the white stuff, like, milk and white bread and sugar. And his allergies cleared up so much. And he did think there was a systemic connection of the teeth with the body. So he actually gave up his practice and then just went into studying what is this system. And through thousands of tests, which he eventually teamed up with an endocrinologist to look at what are the switches in the body, because I feel like once you go into the body, you realize a lot of stuff is really happening through the hypothalamus as sort of this master switch that communicates different systems. And so what he saw was that, and this is really key to understanding the tooth, because also then when I'm looking at body stuff, and I'm always looking at like, what's the least amount that we can do? Because I'm not into like, I'm into beauty and I make all these beauty products, but I'm definitely into like the least amount of work to like maintain my body is where I'm at. So I'm always looking at like, how do we get out of the way and allow the body and its systems that we were born with to do the work? That's what I'm always interested in. So I really wanted to understand how teeth worked. And so what he discovered, which is pretty revolutionary, because in the 1940s, it was just decided through the American Dental Association that it was the acidogenic theory that causes cavities. So it's just about sugar and acids being on the teeth causing decay, which is kind of what we've inherited as our main understanding of the teeth. But what he understood, and through, again, thousands of tests, including x-rays, is that when we chew substrates, those activate the parotid glands, which are right on the sides of our jaw, and those communicate to the hypothalamus. So as we're chewing and those nutrients are delivered into our blood supply, then the teeth, which are like trees with like roots, draw up that nutritive blood, hopefully it's nutritive, and then into the tooth, into the pulp chamber, just like a tree drawing up nutrients from the soil. And then what's so fascinating is that he discovered that there's a dentinal lymphatic system. So every tooth has dentinal lymphatic fluid, which is essential. To me, I call that dentinal fluid the invisible toothbrush. So when that system's working, that's what's keeping our teeth clean from inside out. So as the blood goes up into the tooth through, a whole little biological series of actions, that blood is fenestrated into a lymphatic liquid that pumps up through the pulp chamber, through odontoblasts, which are in the bone, and that sends this liquid up and out onto the surface of the teeth like a microscopic sweat that coalesces with our saliva to, and then they'll, just like sap is sent to a part of the tree trunk to help repair it, it will find areas of the mouth that need healing, hopefully your saliva is alkaline, because our saliva is sort of like a little ocean in our mouths, keeping it alkaline and moist. And so that microscopic sweat is part of keeping our teeth clean. So when this system, that's the system working beautifully as it should. Now, when we're eating diets that are not that good, not that high in minerals, not like high in sugar, just basically your modern diet, or we have peak stress times like puberty for, teens, pregnancy for mothers, like very, stressful hormonal times, or different chemicals, for example. All of this can stagnate that dentinal lymphatic system. So then things are stagnant. We all know what that means. And then you're not getting that peak, how the body's supposed to perform. Now, if that state continues, this system actually reverses. So it's not just neutral and stagnant, then it reverses, and then the tooth becomes like a straw, and then the system reverses. So then it sucks in from the mouth into the tooth. And in our mouth are always, bacteria, viruses. And so then that gets pulled into the tooth, and that is actually the genesis of how a cavity is formed. So you can see it's a body process that then gets interrupted. So the first key to jaw health, tooth health is diet. And a huge component of that is your vitamin D3, which it's great that we have the supplement, but you also need sunshine, because our bones and our skin were designed to be exposed to sunlight. We have thousands of vitamin D receptors all over our body, and they need real sunlight because that creates it's more of a water-soluble form of vitamin D, and it's very cleansing to the blood. And what we have in a supplement is a fat-soluble form of vitamin D. And vitamin D from sunbeams and the supplement create a cholesterol sulfate. And even though it's got the word cholesterol in it, it's a very healthy cholesterol that we need for all of our functioning. And so that's just like a key thing to know to understand like the basics of teeth.
All right, my mind is blown, my brain is completely shattered, and damn, you have a great flow of talking and explaining things, Nadine. I don't know how do you succeed to be so flawless in your talking, but I'm always very fascinated by some of my guests that are like, they just talk about subjects that they should, that are difficult subjects, and you just flow, guys. You just flow. And that is for me a sign of experience, of expertise, and of love, because love binds everything up. So
Thank you.
first of all, thank you for all the information, people. We can definitely end the interview now, and people got so much value. Even we are like in 35 minutes, and so much value in just the last 10 minutes. I mean, it's great. So let's say now, Nadine, that I'm having already. I already did a few things wrong. I have some cavities. I
Yeah.
even have a couple of root canals. What do I do, Nadine? I'm not
Yes.
trusting the dentist anymore. Like you say, it's like taking a chainsaw. Very brutal, in my opinion. Very brutal.
Yeah.
We are going to laugh. Our grandchildren are going to laugh about our practices. And what should a man or a woman do now, even though you have already cavities? He has already cavities. He has already root canals. What are the first steps?
Yes. Just to know too, wherever your mouth is at, it can improve because our teeth are alive and they are connected to the rest of the body. So then we have the whole resources of our body to, nurture that. So if your gums are receding, your mouth's acidic, you've got cavities, it can all evolve and improve. So just know that. And really, most people on the planet need a good new dentist, because there's going to be past dental work that we all need to clear up because luckily now there are there's a good dentist pretty much in, every country or state. You might have to take a moment to get there, but then you can do some deep work in like a day or so and clean up a lot of the history. And for that, you want, a very knowledgeable, current biological dentist that is into minimally invasive dentistry and that they know their stuff, and that also, and that they've done a lot of the thinking for you, but that you're able to come together and be informed of every risk along the way. But most of us have to clean up the past. So yeah, and the cool thing too is like cavities can even heal. Now, if you've got a filling and all that, like it's already been done, but you can prevent, with this knowledge, not making that filling worse, not getting it to be into the state of a crown or a root canal, right? So even once there is a filling, I think there's still knowledge for that tooth and keeping it at least in that state and not getting it worse. So that's where you want to be working with a dentist that won't think you're a freak for going, I want to work with biocompatible materials. Hopefully, and they've gone through and they know like which material is the best generally for most people's immune system and all of that. So that's the kind of dentist you want. And I do have an article on the site and questions in my book of questions to ask a prospective dentist that you can ask the practice and really see where they're at. And we also, we have lists where we don't know dentists everywhere, but we can get you to the organizations that might know them, hopefully for your country or that kind of thing. But there's some really, really amazing dentists now, and they're so helping us, bridge to the next place. So then the thing, there's root canals and even extractions. So wisdom teeth extractions. It's over 90%. I can't remember exactly. It could be 90%, 96% even. What you'll find in an extraction site decades later, so that wisdom tooth you may have removed at 20, when you're in your what it does is it creates a jaw cavitation, like over 90% of the time. So you could just be living your life. You have that wisdom tooth out and you're fine. You don't feel pain, but it can be challenging to your immune system. And you could have one of those autoimmune things and you don't know where it's coming from. And a lot of functional medicine doctors really feel that, 80% of all sort of disease possibly is starting in the mouth. And so you want to look at those things. So for example, jaw cavitation won't even show up on an X-ray until it's like 80% gone. So at some point, that's why we need to get to those good dentists, because you're going to want to have that checked. And what they would do is just sort of either slip in an instrument and see, is the jaw mushy, and then, and I had this done to I had three wisdom teeth out. And so because what the issue is, when the tooth is extracted, the periodontal ligament is left in. That's standard operating procedure. And a dentist explained to me that it's akin to like kind of leaving the placenta in after you've given birth. So, now, of course, there are surgeons and dentists that you say remove the periodontal ligament, and they will. So what happens is that ligament stays there, and then the gum grows over, and then it creates rot. So the jawbone actually needs to be scraped, which sounds gross, but that's what you do. You're scraping out the decay, allows a blood clot to form. That blood clot cleanses the area, and then your dentist, hopefully, because they're good, they're going to inject that area with ozone, and then also with your own plasma. So that's when your blood is, and they should have this at the dentist's office. It's called different things in different places, but it's like PRP therapy or plasma platelet therapy. And they extract your blood, and then it goes into a little spinner, a centrifuge, and then it separates the red part from this beautiful golden plasma fluid that has all of your, good things in it, and then it's injected into the area, and it brings stem cells and your own nutrients to that area for the next 3 to 6 months. And then that cleanses the area, and then you've kind of taken out this thing that could just slowly but surely be degrading your health. So that's one area, and it's a bit similar for a root canal. So if your root canal seems okay in your mouth, then that's okay, but just keep an eye on it. But what we now know, even with textbook perfect root canals, is that when they are extracted, and if they show no signs of disturbance on an x-ray, all seems fine, but when that is removed, it shows that 100% of the time there is necrotic bacteria in that root canal. So the idea of a root canal, the idea is good, the concept is nice, that they take out basically that whole pulp chamber, the inner core of your tooth, and kind of cement it. I'm just speaking very generally right now. And but the thing is, each molar contains over 300 meters of microscopic tubes. 1 molar, 300 meters, microscopic. I can't even imagine that. And really, every time I even say that, I'm like, I know the stat in my head, but it's like, it just seems so mind-blowing that we would have that in one tooth. But that can't be sterilized, is my point. So the idea is that you would have this hermetically sealed, tooth, that you can still have your original tooth and chewing surface. But it was a good idea, but it isn't. And it basically is sending, bacteria into the bloodstream all day. And so if it's a back root canal and you don't have a ton, you can easily remove that tooth. And again, make sure that periodontal ligament is moved to, and then having that site injected with ozone and plasma. And then you can just leave that there. But it is a harder decision, when it's in the front, or it's going to affect you cosmetically. But the options for that, there's a bridge, but then that shaves off good tooth on each side where it would hold up a fake tooth. And then classically, people have used like posts, like a titanium post to hold in a tooth. And, if you have a titanium post tooth, that could also be something you would want to get with a dentist that would revise that previous work, as that is a very toxic metal. And the best thing to use, because it's got a track record of about 30 years in Europe, is zirconium. So you could have, if it was a front tooth, you could have a zirconium implant and then a tooth that way. But you really can leave a back molar, but hopefully, you don't have a ton. And that's why it's good to keep the wisdom teeth too, because you might need them for a chewing surface when you're like 95. And again, that's a bit of a racket. A very prestigious dental journal, I just can't remember the name of which dental journal, but 67% of all wisdom teeth removal was not needed. So we have to really, so it's good to know things too, because then you can question, or is that root canal tooth that they say is a root canal tooth, is it really a root canal tooth? Does it just need a filling, before you go all the way? Those are things that it's important for us to know, because, one trip to the dentist could really be like decisions that you're making that can affect you, 40, 50 years from that time.
All right. What can I say? I'm really impressed and depressed at the same time.
Yeah, I know. But there is things that, again, it's because a lot of people have like that going on with their mouth, and you just have to, that's why it's really good to have like a key dentist to help you. But then also we can really bring up the health of our mouths so simply at home. I've made 8 steps, and I do create a very, wide range of beautiful oral care products. Yet truly, you can do those 8 steps, and we write in the instructions, with just baking soda. So because I always like to give alternatives. You don't have to buy what I've made, but you can literally, for the rest of your life, if you just use like some simple things like baking soda, sea salt, some very diluted hydrogen peroxide, you would be far, far, far better off than using commercial stuff from the drugstore. So on one level, like with salt, hydrogen peroxide, and baking soda, I mean, that's like really good for anybody's budget, because you can buy like a bag of baking soda, right, and it will last you for years. And again, baking soda, if that was all you had, it would be like miraculous compared to the other stuff. It's very gentle, but it's got a little bit of grit, but it's so funny, because there's people's dentists are like, isn't it too rough, like baking soda? I'm like, no, the dental rating for abrasivity for it is about a 7 or 8, and most toothpastes are like at a 70, 80, 90 for at the RDA abrasivity rating. Plus, baking soda is alkaline, and our pancreas even produces it, so it's very has a great affinity with the body and our saliva. So it's just such a great tool. And our toothpaste and stuff include baking soda and stuff, because it's just such a good healer for the mouth. So really, if you haven't been to the dentist for a while, or you need to go, and a lot of us haven't been in this time, because a lot of people couldn't get to the dentist. If you do those 8 steps for like 3 to like 6 months before the dentist, I mean, you're going to really turn around your mouth and, show up to the dentist and have like far less of a cleaning appointment that needs to be done and that kind of thing. And you can really start, because the health of our gums, for example, is so important. And so many of the ingredients that are in the commercial drugstore toothpaste are causing our gums to recede and bleed. Like sodium lauryl sulfate has no business in the mouth. Plus, if we take all that stuff we know about the dentinal lymph fluids and that our mouths need to be alkaline, and then we layer that with our knowledge of the microbiome now, I mean, that gives a whole other reason to not be using chemicals and sodium lauryl sulfate and things like triclosan, which harms aquatic ecosystems, which I feel like our bodies are a bit of an aquatic ecosystem. We can't be using that stuff in our mouths, or even a mercury filling will change the whole microbiome of the mouth. And so that's also, again, something, if you do have silver fillings, those all contain mercury, that would be something, again, to find that really good dentist and then get them changed to another material.
Thank you, Nadine. That's very interesting information, and for me, it's also very, very personal, all the dentistry thing, because besides my own last 12 month experience, which is not very, let's say, not very great, I have my mother, which is really, she really needs some help, because she has everything you don't hope to have in your mouth. So silver filling,
Right.
root canals,
Yeah.
fillings, lost teeth over the past weeks. She lost the teeth, just the teeth went away. So it's my personal, there's a reason that I'm very happy that you came here and accepted my invitation, because it's very personal to me, the teeth business. And when I say business, I mean improvement and taking
Yes.
it in our own hands. If we can do whatever we can do at home, why not do that? And yes, regarding the biological dentist, you have a friend here, Nadine. I'm going to search for the best in Greece. So if you have other Hellene friends,
Yes.
you can send them to me because I'm in the process actually to find. I'm
Oh,
really
great.
categorizing all the dentists in Greece, and I'm starting taking calling them and trying to figure out. And of course, now that you said about your book and about the questions in your website,
Yeah.
I'm going straight there after our interview, and I'm going to have some fun
Yes.
with those dentists. So
That is great. Yeah, I love that. And I feel like, the best dentists that I know that I've interviewed or that I go to, their practices, they do not do root canals. That's the sign of a maverick that's got your back.
okay. By the way, before we end this chat, do you know Dr. Thomas Levy?
I
Levi?
don't know him, but I know of his work. Yes.
Wow, I should probably connect you two. I don't know. I
Yeah.
think great minds, and especially if you have similar thoughts in dentistry, should probably be connected. So I'm going to connect you via email if I have
Thank you.
your permission. So,
Yes, thank you.
all right. Having said that, even though I would love to dive into the beauty thing, I think it deserves a longer treatment, a longer exposure to the public. So if you are very kind and you love this conversation, because I love your teachings, you can come by for a part two and talk a little bit about just the beauty thing. Because
Sure.
beauty, I love beauty. You're a very beautiful woman. You take care of yourself. It's very obvious to me. And I want to take care of my beauty too lately. So, because I'm out in the dating market again. So,
We'll talk.
and
We
I
can
want,
talk about skin and sunshine. How about
yes,
that?
yes. And cologne, if you have anything to say about,
Oh,
aroma.
I feel. Oh, I'm. That's. I don't know. That's. I mean, we. I feel like we really have some of the just sheerest, most beautiful colognes and perfumes on the planet. Like
This is a
like you
cliffhanger.
you would love Evermoss. Yeah,
All right, this is a
Evermoss.
cliffhanger for the part
Radiant
two.
Earth of Deep Delight. Yeah, that would be so good.
That would
And
be awesome.
being being from Greece, in my son, I have a chapter on sunshine, and Greek in the original Olympic athletes, where the original gymnasiums were outside, and
Yes.
Olympic athletes were required to work out outside because they knew the sun developed muscles and made bones strong. So
Yeah.
the sun makes our teeth strong.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And by the way, you have a lovely name, Artemis, which is of course a Greek goddess. Uh, I think she was a sister of Apollo, and Apollo, I think,
Yes.
was the master and the god of sun. The
They're the
sun.
son and daughter of Zeus.
Yes, sun and daughter of
Yes.
Zeus. Lovely name, Artemis. So, having said all that, we are approaching the end. So, please, Nadine, let the people know where can they find all your beautiful products and information.
Livinglibations.com is our website, and you'll find everything there, including quite a few articles and dental articles. There's YouTube, there's Instagram, Nadine Artemis Official, and Living Libations on Instagram. Plus, the books are, on our site, but also wherever books are sold, and they're both Audible books as well on Audible.
Excellent, excellent. People, go follow Nadine and go find the products and all of that, and of course stay tuned for the other episode that we are going to do with Nadine at some point in the future. I'm looking forward to it. Again, beauty, very interesting, and our teeth. So, Nadine, thank you for coming on by here. I'm very proud to have you here as a guest, and this is very interesting stuff that you laid out for people, and you empowered many people watching this. So, thank you for your beautiful soul and for everything you do in this world, in this earth, because fighters like you, and I hope to be something like that in the future, are very needed in these very weird times. And empowering people with a laugh, with beauty, and with solutions. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Take care.
Take care.